The first thing they taught us in marketing is a difference between wants and needs. And they literally tell you, they literally tell you, if you want to have a successful business, you need to constantly be creating new wants for people that will overshadow their actual real needs. Because that is the only way you change what is actually demanded. Since we're on the topic of the absolute, eternal, and only domineering, dominating, the word they'd like to throw at our Muslim brothers and sisters in NBs, jihadist, and that is consumerism. That is finding your identity in the things you buy. So it's a perfect segue into exactly this. From our changing climate, the real trap of consumerism. Let's watch this. I'm dodging those gifted subs like Neo be dodging bullets in Matrix. That's why I love chat. And then immediately honor Charlie Marks. Gifted Mehmed. the gift sub. Fucking legendary. Oh, such a wholesome chat. I love you fuckers.
To feel good, you shop. If you're bored, you browse things to buy. If you want to be ethical, you don't stop buying. You just need to find the right brand to buy.
Buy the right thing to buy. Actually save the planet by buying the right things. Indeed, indeed, indeed. The only thing which you are not allowed to do is stop buying, never stop buying, never stop buying.
Seemingly, our whole lives are wrapped up in the vicious cycle of working all day and then spending all of our money to fill the void in our lives.
For your identity is no longer of that of a worker, but of that of a consumer. Remember, the consumer is always right, both when you service him with your long, lubricated tongue of a sucking, or when you're the consumer yourself, and then you get to expect to be sucked off. In very disgusting terminology. They basically told us, yo, it's okay for you to be stepped on when you're servicing a customer because you get to leave work and then step on somebody else. That's the pitch. And we all jumped at it and we're like,
wonderful.
Fuck yes. I get to stomp half of my day and get stomped on the other half. That sounds like a base system to me. But because of the failing rate of profit and other direct contradictions of capitalism, we no longer can even do that. For now, you get stomped on at work and then aren't able to afford to stomp on somebody else.
Consumerism is a problem that runs rampant in imperialist countries like the United States. It's right up in our faces at every moment. It can be easy to see this conspicuous spending and claim that overconsumption is the source of many of our environmental problems. Consumers are, after all, the ones making the choices at the checkout counter. They're the ones voting with their dollars. But today we're going to dive into this mistaken worldview. Consumerism is not the problem, it's a trap. It's a symptom of a much larger and more insidious problem of capitalism that lurks in the shadows. Today, we look at the real problem with consumerism and how we really combat the out-of-control waste and accumulation of stuff. This video is made possible by my amazing viewers who support me on Patreon. Over the last 2 years, my revenue from...
Please, OCC is a dear friend of the channel. If anybody has not subscribed or watched their stuff, please look at the link pinned above and go and support this lovely creator who, for some reason on this channel, I hadn't subbed. They were even on the D program. Very, very cool motherfucker.
Please consider supporting Our Changing Climate on Patreon. Just $1 a month from a small portion of my audience would be huge for the channel and, to be honest, me. Spend enough time on the internet and you're bound to buy something. How could you not when Amazon offers free shipping and an option to click just one button to speed you through the checkout process? Or when the new online marketplace Temu offers rock bottom prices for basically any good you could ever want? Consumerism in the US has risen precipitously, with total retail sales more than doubling since 2013. Indeed, the percentage of households with 2 or more cars has increased dramatically from 22% in 1960 to 59% in 2020, while the average home size expanded by 149% from 1,595 square feet to 2,383 square feet in 2022. And when families run out of space to put all of their stuff, they've turned to storage units. In the United States, an estimated 14.6 million households rent additional storage to keep all of their additional stuff.
I mean, I played this to some chatters, so it might be like a repeat,
I would have been out here a little bit.
Literally, like, best explanation of ultra heavy-handed obsession with, well, stuff. And this is from what? This is from 1968. Nothing changes, man.
Sooner, but they gave me the wrong dressing room, and I couldn't find any place to put my stuff. And I don't know how you are, but I need a place to put my stuff. So that's what I've been doing back there, just trying to find a place for my stuff. You know how important that is. That's the whole meaning of life, isn't it? Trying to find a place for your stuff. That's all your house is. Your house is just a place for your stuff. If you didn't have so much goddamn stuff, you wouldn't need a house. You could just walk around all the time. That's all your house is. It's a pile of stuff with a cover on it. Sometimes you've got to move. You got to get a bigger house. Why? Too much stuff. You've got to move all your stuff. And maybe put some of your stuff in storage. Now imagine that. There's a whole industry based on keeping an eye on your stuff.
Oh, one of the best pieces of comedy of all time, dude. My boy, this entangled capitalism in a fucking 5-minute pitch, and some chuds still think he's their guy. That's fucking amazing.
This generates the self-storage industry $29 billion in revenue every year. And all of this growth hasn't been to accommodate larger families, because the average family size has actually decreased by 16% from 1980. And this expansion of consumption has had disastrous effects on the environment. Despite being home to just 5% of the world's population, the United States consumes 15.7% of the world's total fossil fuel energy. In the United States, between 30 to 40% of food gets wasted through a combination of on-farm loss, transportation, store overstocking, and lack of at-home planning.
But remember, that is a system unlike any other. A system that truly feeds us. A system that truly takes care of us. And most importantly, children, do not forget, for it is the market, and the market only, that has efficiency. 30 to 40%. 40% of your fucking food goes to waste. Dude, if 4 was going to waste, that would be defined as inefficient in any fucking industry. But no, here it's good because it's natural.
Average American emits 14.9 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent every year, which is more than triple that of the global average of 4.7. Yet despite unprecedented consumption rates and a glut of almost every gadget and appliance imaginable flooding the market, people in the United States aren't that happy. According to the General Social Survey, only 25% of Americans are satisfied with their life, a percentage that slowly declined since the 1970s and plummeted during the pandemic. In part, this is due to the vast inequality.
So the distributive system of the economy is not working. People are not actually happy or satisfied with their lives in this particular system. And even the consumerist aspect of their society is slowly dying down because people can afford less and less. The size of families is also decreasing, the very same thing that conservatives are telling you is the most important aspect of the American life. And you're supposed to tell me that things are working correctly, that things are working fine, that a conversation about an alternative system is somehow radical and unhinged and utopian, etc., etc. My dude, how is it utopian to not want to live in a dystopia?
Qualities that cleave the United States. As some fill up their oversized homes and storage units with stuff, many struggle to survive. Over 42 million people rely on food stamps to put food on the table, while more than 650,000 people experience homelessness across the country. As the famous quote from economist William Gibson goes, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed." Even for those who do enjoy excessive and conspicuous consumption of the newest Tesla or Apple's $3,500 Vision Pro, more consumption and more income don't necessarily...
Kubashi, I mean, capitalism works, just not how we would want. Exactly, that is a very good point. This is not capitalism in crisis. This is not capitalism in error. This is it just working. This is how it's intended to work. This is how it's going to continue working in the future. Sure, you can stop it, give it a little pause here and there with a reform here and there, but you're just like putting band-aids on a tumor, okay?
They lead to more happiness, a phenomenon that has been deemed the Easterlin paradox, a concept that claims that after basic needs are met, economic growth and higher incomes don't necessarily lead to greater happiness. With all this in mind, it's clear that the capitalist hub of the world is on a dangerous path, a path that is not only leaving us overworked, in debt, and unhappy, but is also driving us headlong into a ruinous collision point. Paraphrasing scholar Timothy Jackson, Diana Stewart and fellow researchers write in a paper that considering the biophysical limitations of the Earth, extreme resource and material consumption on a finite planet means it is not a matter of if the economy will contract, but when. In short,
Exactly. When.
behind every dollar spent on that butter melter you saw on TikTok or that automatic pot stirrer you saw on Instagram lies a corporation. A company eager to offload its product into your hands to generate profit. The core engine of capitalism is its constant demand for capital accumulation. Capitalists must incessantly expand their productive capacities through new technologies and decreasing labor costs to create the most commodities for the lowest prices. If they fail to do so, they get eaten alive by other, more capable owners who've managed to create more products at cheaper prices. This process of constant accumulation and expansion creates overproduction. Production that generates piles of commodities that must be sold to the masses to continue the cycle of capital accumulation. Because exchanging products for even more money is essential to complete the last leg of the money invested into commodities and sold for even more money cycle, also known as MCM. In a sense, consumption is a release valve of production. It expands and contracts, but never creates the flow of goods. As scholar Alan Schneiberg notes, consumption cannot be the leading factor in the expansion of production. Increased consumption may permit expanded production, but it does not generally cause it. Unrestrained capitalist production, then, is the root cause of what we see as the ails of consumerism. According to the average person living in the capitalist stronghold of the United States, and indeed most economists, however, corporations are merely responding to consumer demand. This is a skewed view of reality. The true culprits of all the stuff in our house.
Romka Technolending, I have that one Soviet washing machine that still works, and it was even built in the years of the revisionist rotting of the Union. Yeah, my grandparents have like a fridge that's been made like 1,000 years ago.
Houses and our landfills and in our atmosphere is overproduction. Companies like Best Buy, for example, supply a false freedom when you walk into their store. The range of brands and products on their shelves might make you feel like you have freedom of choice, but in reality, you are only served cameras, laptops, or phones that generate profit or allow corporations to stay competitive. Factors that are often determined much more by labor costs, raw materials, and transportation logistics than consumer demand. So capitalists produce goods based on factors outside of the realm of consumerism. That being said, they still need people to buy their stuff. To complete that cycle of money, commodity, more money, capitalists must sell their products on the market to the masses, regardless of whether their products have actual use or not. So instead of focusing on producing things that are actually useful and necessary, capitalism has built a massive apparatus that manufactures false needs and desires.
Exactly, and you expand their false needs and desires so that you can sell them items that they previously did not interpret as what they need, because those very same overproduced, let's call them items that make more profit for you. So you change people's very ideas of what they need so that they buy stuff that they now think they need, which will make you more money. Basically, overtly complicated way of saying that the market system doesn't actually provide you with shit that you need. It changes your notion and your idea of what you need so that it can extract maximum value from you both as a laborer and a consumer. Basically doesn't work the way it's supposed to.
Here lies the true trap of consumerism. To assure the continued success of their businesses, capitalists manufacture desires and needs. We believe that it is wholly inherent wants, needs, and desires that are driving our consumption, that it is human nature, when in fact corporate forces are constantly whispering in our ear, consume, consume, consume. In 1919,
that's the ultimate, like the greatest, one of the greatest lies ever told, that it is human nature that you want to have more than your neighbor, that you want to dominate, etc., etc. You have been brainwashed in wanting more than your neighbor. You have even been brainwashed in what it means to want to have more than your neighbor. When it comes to having more than your neighbor, fucking C-Blob up in here really went in and said, I can give more than any of you, motherfuckers.
Ford and his fellow capitalists
respect. Thank you, guys. genuinely.
We're scared. A rising insurgence of anarchist and socialist movements seized the hearts and minds of Americans across the country. Labor strikes, walkouts, and protests seeking a better workplace threatened to disrupt the profit-making machines of Ford's car-making factories. Then Ford had an idea, a double-edged sword wielded against the worker to maintain the status quo. Ford and his fellow industry leaders, as one paper describes, decided to reduce the chances of a worker rebellion by giving workers increased wages, bank credit, and more leisure time, all for the purpose of encouraging increased rates of consumption. As we've already seen, producers
They realize that if they balance out how much they pay you and how much you can consume, they will also increase their profits. But unfortunately, because of the falling rate of profit, eventually that will not be sustainable because the worker eventually cannot make as much as things cost. Because as we've seen, the median salary has not really increased over the last 50 to 60 years, not realistically, and yet the executive compensation has, and prices have fucking skyrocketed. So even this argument that Ford put forward is no longer sufficient for the self-sufficiency of this disgusting non-self-sufficient system, if you know what I mean.
Required the endless consumption of their commodities to stay competitive and profitable within a capitalist market system. Capitalists must keep consumers on an endless treadmill of consumption to reap maximum profit and continue accumulating capital. This leads to the real trap of consumerism, the manufacturing of what Marxist scholar Herbert Marcuse deemed false needs. To offload all of the useless gadgets, new
And you don't fucking need Marcuse, bro. You don't need my boy Herbert. Just look at a syllabus of a business school. The first thing they taught us in marketing is a difference between wants and needs. And they literally tell you, they literally tell you, if you want to have a successful business, you need to constantly be creating new wants for people that will overshadow their actual real needs. Because that is the only way you change what is actually demanded. If you get to learn anything from this fucking stream, it is that. Demand and supply is a fucking meme.
Iterations of the same tech and just general junk onto the masses, capitalists have to make us believe that we actually need the latest iPhone or the slap chop or that latest TikTok trend, rather than just want it. This is where the vast apparatus of advertising comes into play. With ads like this.
Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me.
And this.
Making new traditions, sharing old stories. That's my recipe for magic.
Companies assign emotional value and meaning to objects whose actual value stems from the labor and raw material costs needed to make that product. This process not only obscures exploitative practices employed during production, but also allows companies to set higher prices because the commodity is now imbued with certain politics and values. Tesla has been extremely effective at this task. Its brand imbues its cars with ideals of luxury, clean, and sustainable futurism. These values, in turn, mask the exploitative practices throughout Tesla's supply chain. Fellow YouTuber Ukopnik cheekily describes this process of value.
Wait, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? I swear on my mother, I did not know this. What the fuck? What? Fuck you, man. Lord. Oh my lord. Oh, okay, this feels good.
Throughout Tesla's supply chain. Fellow YouTuber Ukopnik
and that's one of my oldest fucking videos. Holy shit. Look at the fucking emote.
Cheekily describes this process of value formation through the example of a chocolate bar.
Advertisers consciously understand that purchasing patterns directly correlate to personal values. Therefore, the chocolate bar becomes a locally grown, eco-friendly, soy-infused chocolate bar with a hipster biodegradable wrapper, and from whose every purchase 2 cents go to starving Sri Lankan children. Now, what's the actual difference between this world-saving chocolate bar and just a chocolate bar? Almost none. Made in the same factory with the same ingredients and for the same profit motive.
In short, the advertising industry...
Fucking... Monk is strong. This is some content inception, bro. Holy fuck.
Works tirelessly to wrap products in values like happiness, power, connection.
I made this like 5 years ago, man. I've been talking about this almost half of my life. I'm 10 years old, by the way. They just feed us insane food here in the Balkans. I'm actually 10. I am actually 10. Which actually goes against Twitter TOS, so no, I'm actually 50.
Or sustainability, because they
You got a man known to be somewhere in the age between 5 and 55.
know it's much easier to sell a product to someone based on appeals to their principles rather than just describing the utility of the commodity. This value generation apparatus, otherwise known as the advertising industry, has become an essential lever in the capitalist machine. Advertising revenue has nearly doubled since 2012, with spending on digital display advertising in just the US alone reaching $63.5 billion in 2022. But in the age of social media, it's not just advertisements directly from companies that are pushing us to buy to boost our happiness or save the planet. Your favorite streamer or Instagram star is constantly influencing you to buy stuff, regardless of whether they're paid to or not. Even I support myself through ad revenue, which I'll get to later on. This has disastrous consequences for our mental health as we constantly strive to fulfill those false needs generated for us, especially as corporations wield algorithms and data collection to hone in on what product will best seduce you into buying. In essence, every day, a social media advertisement is placed in front of you with a product that you never even thought about buying. But
now it's additionally insidious because sometimes you don't even know that you're being pitched a product. Advertising has evolved massively. It's no longer just, what he showed with the nice Coca-Cola ad or, hey, Nike supports dudes who kneel against the flag, etc., etc. Now it's like your favorite masked dude with a cap on the internet screaming about communism to you, telling you that actually not even telling you, but like throughout the stream, Samsung would pay me, this is a Samsung phone, Samsung would pay me to very elegantly flip it off and be like, oh, hello, extremely sexy women that talk to me because I have a phone which flips. How are you doing? Yes, I will see you later to show you how I flip on you, baby. If my phone can flip, what do you think my dick can do? And then just closes it. Obviously, this is a fucking idiotic example that I had to think of on the spot. But that's what they will do. They will just use a thing on screen, be it in a film or be it your favorite content creator, and you will not know it's an ad, but you're like, oh my God, that is such a base thing.
Because of data tracking and
immediately, I want a flip phone.
Algorithmic decisions, that product now wiggles its way into your head like an earworm, and you can't stop thinking about how your life would be better with those slippers or that new watch. As a result, the good life becomes synonymous with consuming things. Happiness is equated with having product.
And that is no longer something that can actually be, I'm not saying don't consume shit. That's fucking cringe. You know why it's cringe? Because you're already that guy. You're that guy. It's already in your brain. Your identity is already closely knit with what you're consuming and what you own and what you have, etc., etc. I'm wearing a fucking polo hat. And I'm a communist. I'm wearing a fucking polo hat. I'll tell you, I just bought a car that's like, all my friends are like, fucking idiot, like, the fuck? Even though I drove the same car for like 12 years, right? Over 350,000 kilometers, right? So I was like, okay, I'm never going to tell you what I bought because you'll kill me, but I bought a decent car, right? And he was like, fucking champagne sauce, which, okay, decent points. But I am a part of my environment, just like you are, just like all of us are, because this is the only environment we've known. And people will judge you based on the shit you have. And you will judge yourself based on the shit you have. The only thing really that you can do is try to minimize it. Try to see how much of the stuff that's been brainwashed into your head are also things that you can kind of relatively enjoy, because all things have been brainwashed into your hand that you need except food, shelter, water, and maybe the internet, right? So the only thing you can do is question it as much as possible and only consume those things that after the hardcore questioning, you still feel like you should get. Because they're going to make you feel a bit less, shit, and like a better hierarchically placed individual in society.
Well,
there's no shame.
Soldier,
There's no
subscriber.
shame in a Gucci bag. You got enough money for a Gucci bag? You think a Gucci bag is going to make you feel better? Get a Gucci bag. I'm telling you, do it. God bless. Like, it's not on you as a consumer to take all the weight of the world and limit your potential exploration of the self because it is a shitty system and you most likely been brainwashed into it. The problem is with the guys who are doing the brainwashing, right? Not you haven't been brainwashed. So don't shit on your friend for buying an iPhone every year. It's extremely stupid. They're absolutely brainwashed. But shit on Apple. You're literally shitting on the victim, like unironically. People who engage in consumerism and are brainwashed by it are victims of consumerism, of capitalist hyperproduction, of commodity fetishism, all of these fancy words. They are victims. So criticize the system, and as the system switches, we will no longer be obsessed with these things. But while in capitalism, that's where you're at. Okay? Don't hate the player, hate the game. Yeah, I'm basically saying the biggest cliche in the world, Kobashi, but that's the truth. That's the truth.
Even streaming services keep you hooked and numb with features like the autoplay button. It allows you to constantly...
Negotiating these things is challenging. Mama played Nintendo. It is. It is very challenging. And you should try to do it not out of victim blaming yourself or others, but because you will not be wasting money. That is it. You're already brainwashed into wasting money for things you don't need. And the only thing you will, ironically, really succeed in getting from not spending your money for quote-unquote frivolous things is you will have more money for yourself, your family, your loved ones, etc., etc. That's literally what you get out of it. Fetishizing non-consumption and minimalism, etc., etc., is literally the other side of the coin. It's capitalism convincing you that capitalism can go on as it is only if everybody was as enlightened of a minimalist as you are. They're literally selling, and then they'll sell you minimalist stuff. As I said in the quote, they want, like, you won't buy the fancy chocolate, you'll buy the chocolate that gives 2 cents on the dollar to Sri Lankan kids. Even though most likely the chocolate is being made by Sri Lankan kids.
Consume content and search for that next dopamine hit, giving you a short-term high. But in the process, we stay up way too late, which leaves us tired and burnt out. In fact, in 2017, Netflix's CEO very bluntly claimed,
I find it to be my original allegory, not to pat myself on the back too much. But if you're doing okay in this system and you still hate it, it's okay. And the allegory for this is, does a soldier have to love war to be a good soldier? No, he doesn't. Do you have to be a capitalist to be making it in capitalism? No, you don't. You quite literally only become a capitalist when you start exploiting others. Then we stop having a conversation unless you're funneling that surplus value into a socialist cause such as like Engels did. That's literally the video I'm working on right now. It's going to be something clickbaity as fuck. Like most socialists are rich kids, like come from wealthy families. And you'll see in the video a lot of them were.
Claimed that their biggest competitor was sleep. All of this advertising leads us to believe that the current system we live in actually benefits.
Che was not necessarily, Engels was the class trader, so was Che. Che, not really. He came from like a very middle class, blah, blah, blah. Not really. Fidel Castro was a pure class trader. Fidel Castro's dad, at that time, had $5.6 million. The guy had farms so big that they had their own stores and their own schools. Okay? Fidel Castro could have very much gone, oh no, my dad's privilege, I will just continue exploiting, etc., etc. Yet he gave all that away for the Cuban Revolution, right? You'll watch the video, you'll see. I'll probably get a little flack for it because fucking imbeciles that read Mao once. Mao's dad was a fucking loan shark landowner. Mao's dad was a loan shark landowner, okay? It doesn't make you bad to come from money or to have made some money. That's liberal thinking. Please don't do that. Thank you, Romka, for the 100 bits. Vladimir Ilyich was literally from a decently wealthy family. Only because of that could he get a proper degree in law. Yeah. Use the goddamn fucking privileges you have to build something better. And don't just lament in them.
Benefits us. That keeping up with the Joneses, going deep into debt to buy a new car, or going on a shopping spree is the answer to our loneliness, alienation, and disconnection from the people and places around us. As Diana Stewart and her co-authors write, the ruling class, benefiting from the labor of others, perpetuates ideas that mystify, elude, and deceive.
By the way, before I forget, let's literally write, yo, legend was watching this on stream and your quote of me from one of my old videos made me and chat lose her shit. Fucking legend. Thank you, EcoWaves, for another gifted sub. I'm stopping. EcoWaves, no more gifts from you. 11 is you're already at 220 gifted subs. I'm banning you. No more gift subs, EcoWaves. Okay.
Into falsely believing that they benefit from the current system, can move up in the system, and have freedom in the system, as well as that no other system is possible. This is especially insidious in the realm of politics. Many of us have become so distant from the cogs of capitalist production and so entrenched in this advertising ideology that often political activism has been boiled down to voting with your dollars. This narrative is exactly what the fossil fuel industry has been hard at work creating for over 40 years through its popularization of carbon footprints, recycling, and individualization of action. When we as worker consumers
ExxonMobil literally were the first guys that realized that the climate is dying, and we need to repitch to our consumers who they should blame for climate disaster instead of us. Should repitch to them that they should be blaming themselves and their consumer habits.
Wonderful, a new child
So the next time you blame yourself for the planet burning, remember that the first guys who thought that up were the guys burning the planet. Okay.
For over 40 years through its popularization of carbon footprints, recycling, and individualization of action. When we as worker consumers are placated into believing that the most effective means of change is to transfer our money from one capitalist to another, the owners of production have won. They've distracted us from what's actually a threat to them: collective organizing, labor agitation, union power, walkouts, and strikes. Activities that directly disrupt the cycle of capital accumulation. As scholar Douglas Kellner writes, capitalists wield image and spectacle to manipulate people into social conformity and into behaving in ways functional for the reproduction of capitalism. In essence, consuming not only perpetuates the endless cycle of production and capital accumulation, but it also pacifies the masses by narrowing the possibility.
EcoWaves, goddammit! I'm gonna ban my biggest oiler. EcoWaves, thank you for the gift sub. What the hell?
Of a good life to the purchasing, having, and watching of more stuff. So if we know the root causes of consumerism, how then do we escape it? We already have the means and capacity to fulfill everyone's basic needs worldwide. Let that sink in. We already produce enough food to feed everyone globally, but we're wasting nearly a third of it. We already have the technology to create renewable energy for everyone on the planet, but we're nowhere near that level. We can build a world where everyone lives a good, meaningful, and environmentally ethical life. But that world will mean an end to shopping at Temu or Shein. It means no Amazon one-click purchases. It means an end to incessant advertising. And here...
Yes, but exactly, I agree with our changing climate, but that will happen as a consequence of a systematic change. You will no longer neither feel the need or actually need to buy from Temu or from Amazon. Sure, yes, nationalize those institutions, use their resources to redistribute wealth, etc., etc. But you don't need a policy that just kills them, because de facto you will no longer need them.
Is where I struggle. I am complicit in that manufacturing of consumer desire. My channel is run on the manufacturing of false needs. My livelihood is based on getting you to become a Nebula member or signing up for Ground News. Does it make it better if I actually like those services and use them? Or that Nebula is ad-free and based on membership revenue? I tell myself yes, because I live under this massive apparatus that is capitalism, but that doesn't feel good to me. Perhaps I could end YouTube ads if there was more Patreon support, but at this moment, it's not financially feasible. At the end of...
But even Patreon support, even you beautiful subs, let's be fucking honest here. You get exploited by your boss. You barely make any money because you're exploited by the owners, by your boss, to use simpler terms. And then you give me the money that you've earned after having been exploited by your boss. So I am, in a different way, participating in the same exploitative nature, because you would not have the money unless you also participated in capitalism. And then let's not even start talking about you guys from the first world that are quote unquote exploiting as labor aristocracy the rest of the world. You donating to me also participates in this shit. If we hyper focus on all of this, then we need to like embrace anarcho-primitivism and go live in a fucking forest. You know, like those of you here with diabetes should reject medicine for diabetes because it's developed by disgusting megacorps, right? Our changing climate isn't doing that at all. But doing so is literally blaming the victim. It's blaming the victim for having to survive in this stupid fucking system. Thank you for the 100 bits, Ramka, as always. I think that OCC is actually making it seem more scary than it is. It makes it seem as if a one-click Amazon purchase is such a great privilege. I think that feeds into right-wing cringe lord rhetoric to an extent. He's trying to say that access to overconsumption is what is causing this because it's being manipulated by said corporations, which also through advertising push you to overconsume, etc., etc. But yes, most likely in a well-structured, quote-unquote, state-run economy that maximizes the use of technology and state planning, etc., etc., you will have even easier access to everything once it develops. Obviously.
In a sense, this is capitalism at work. It insidiously corrupts the very messages of those working to dismantle it, blaming those who must live within it for living within it. But even if I did cancel all ads, my action would only be like spooning a small drop of water out of a vast ocean.
Exactly. Man, I fucking love our changing climate.
This is why we need more than just individual vote with your money approaches. Ideally, a mass revolution would upend our current capitalist system, and the adoption of full worker control of all companies and production would take root. Democratic planning through worker, consumer, and community councils would mean an emphasis on producing for actual planetary and personal needs rather than manufacturing false needs for profit. Of course, this kind of worker-led socialist economy could be a ways off in the future. We will need to build mass power globally if we are to see it come to fruition. This is why we need to employ non-reformist reforms like restricting and regulating advertising on the road to building that power. To beat back the manufacturing of false needs, we need to restrict the reach of corporations in our everyday lives. This could start as simply reinstating child advertising laws that were stripped away under the Reagan administration, or tamping down on social media and influencer marketing. We cannot sit by and simply hope that encouraging everyone to buy ethical, green, or just less stuff will somehow work to solve the multiple crises in front of us, especially as mass marketing and overproduction peck at individual consumers to buy. To truly escape the trap of consumerism, we must approach.
OCC went from an environmentalist centrist to legit anti-capitalist leftist is what I hope happens to every content creator. Every content creator that talks about societal ills and doesn't eventually become anti-capitalist is either a shill or an imbecile. There is no other path. Either too stupid to have class consciousness or understands that they can make more money by not talking about leftist politics. So never give them any fucking excuses. Give them patience, but no fucking excuses.
Approach the problem from the root. We must erode power through regulation and non-reformist reforms, and then eventually dismantle and reimagine the factories and offices of production that manufacture our desires. And on their rubble, build a world based on useful goods. A world where the stuff we make facilitates rather than alienates our connection to people and the planet. In an effort to depend less and less on YouTube ads and in-video sponsorships, I need your help. Recently, my revenue has been slipping because of a combination of demonetization and fewer sponsorship conversions. My wonderful Patreon supporters, however, have been keeping this channel and myself afloat. My Patreon supporters have given me financial consistency over the last 7 years so I can pay my rent and my ever-increasing healthcare premiums. If you have the means, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon using the link in the description. Just pledging $1 a month is huge for the channel.
You have a link in the fucking chat. A link in the fucking chat. Please do consider supporting this brilliant man. Like, don't you see how like disgusting the system is? Because right now, me calling on you to support this lovely human being quite literally lowers the chances of you potentially supporting me. That's it's so fucking dystopian, man. Jesus Christ.
Thank you so much to those who already support me on Patreon.
Thank you very much to OCC, which is insane. I think back in my university, OCC was the name for like the guys that took care of the computers. We all hated them because the internet sucks, and I'm like OCC based. Free market, baby. Right, Yanagibashi? No ethical actions under capitalism.